This is what we call Conversations with Legends series. So we have had everybody from Joe DeSena, the CEO of Spartan, to Dick Vermeil, who won a Super Bowl with the Rams, to Claude Silver, Kara Golden, you name it. And we have got an incredible lineup of 24 people set already this year to give you guys wisdom and let you pick their brain. So we're really excited. So a little bit of housekeeping before we get started. I'm going to kind of go through what we've got scheduled. And we've got a couple new things, and then we are going to dive in with the amazing Megan Reilly. So our Conversations with Legends series goes next January 15th. We're going to be joined by Kat Gazarian. Kat is the CEO of Game Day HR. And to me, one of the funniest people I've ever met in my life. She is hysterical and she is smart as could be. So she's joining us on the 25th. On February 8th, we have Antonia Hawk. Antonia is the global head of the Ritz-Carlton Leadership Center and a total badass. So we're excited to have Antonia join us on the 8th. On February 22nd, we've got another legend, David Meltzer. I don't have enough time to give you all the things that David has done. What he does right now is he runs Sports One marketing with Hall of Fame quarterback Warren Moon. But David Meltzer is an absolute legend. And then on March 22nd, we have Kate Luzio, who is the CEO and founder of Luminary. And before that, had an incredible executive career at the likes of, Bank of America, Chase Manhattan, just running the show. She's amazing. So we've got those folks coming up and many, many more to come. One thing to mention is we just started the TCC Book Club. So our book club starts in January with this book, which is called How Do You Measure Your Life? And Karen Dillon, who's the former editor of the Harvard Business Review, is going to join us in February to talk about the book. So everybody read, purchase, How Will You Measure Your Life? And then we're going to talk to Karen Dillon, who has written 3 bestsellers. How Will You Measure Your Life was a New York Times bestseller. We've got her coming up. We're following that up with Dana Cavalia's new book. This just came out. For those of you who don't know, Dana Cavalia was the performance coach for the New York Yankees for many years and is a great friend of the TCC. We follow that up with one of the most famous Navy SEALs out there, Jason Redman. We're going to read his book, Overcome, which is incredible. We are next going to Kim Scott, who wrote one of the classic books of all time called Radical Candor. She's going to be joining us. We are then, and don't worry about writing this down, we're going to send all this to you. We've got Deanne Turner. Deanne was the head of people for Chick-fil-A for 30 years, and she wrote a book called Bet on Talent. We're then going to Susan McPherson, who wrote The Lost Art of Connecting. And then we're going to a TCC board member, Jason Van Camp, West Point grad, played football at Army, runs a nonprofit called Warrior Rising, runs a for-profit company called Mission 60, and wrote the bestseller Deliberate Discomfort, which is an absolute incredible book. Then we are going to 2-time Olympian gold medalist, 2-time World Cup champ, and Hall of Famer Christine Lilly, who wrote the book Powerhouse about building powerhouse teams. And then we are ending, we have 2 special ones that we haven't announced yet, but we are going to Mark Champagne, who wrote Personal Socrates, just came out. It's already a bestseller. So that is our book club. So not only are you going to get 24 people in the Conversations with Legends series, but you're going to get another 12 people that you get to interact with and ask questions and get the privilege of reading their book. So we are very, very, very excited about that. For those of you who don't know, the way that this works is Megan and I are going to chat for maybe about 30 minutes. And then we're going to open it up for Q&A. And what we do is all you need to do is in the chat, just let people know that you have a question. Kathy Leckie will then cue me and we'll start getting people lined up to ask questions to Megan. So you don't have to put your question in the chat. Just say, I've got a question, and we will we'll call on you. So I am fired up to start the year, and I cannot think of a better way to start the year than with Megan Reilly. If Megan Reilly, so in our morning call this morning, Kathy Leckie called her America's sweetheart. And I thought that was so true. Like, who does not love Megan Reilly? Everybody loves Megan. For those of you who don't know Megan, you're about to get to know her, but her first claim to fame is probably her appearance on Shark Tank with her sister. They got a deal from Mark Cuban for their company Tippy Toes. They took the deal and then pulled the plug on it later. I don't know if she's going to talk about that today, but it's certainly not off limits. And then she went on to build Tippy Toes into a monster. So 35 franchises, a master franchise agreement in China. She's just for 20 years and she's still like insanely young. It's amazing what you built with Tippy Toes. She is also the podcast host and creator of Who's Your Mama, which is on Jesse Itzler's BYLR radio. And she is now speaking on stages, which is a long time coming because you should have been doing that for a long time, Megan. So, Megan, I am so stinking excited. It's ridiculous.
Well, the feeling is mutual. Well, the feeling's mutual. This whole community is awesome. And I love seeing so many, what I love is so many of these faces are familiar to me. We've had good conversations and this group is really special. What you're building it's such a gift for all of us to be able to network with this kind of group.
Well, you're amazing. So, it's so unusual for somebody to have a 20+ year career and not be like 77-year-old Avram Miller, who we just had before you. Like, you have so much ahead of you, but you've accomplished so much. I mean, the things I just mentioned are things that, it takes people a lifetime to accomplish all those things. I guess I have a couple things that I was thinking of is, what do you want people to know about you? And then kind of what do you think is next for you, because you've accomplished so much already?
Awesome. Well, I appreciate you saying that. I think everybody can relate to the feeling of, I don't ever think about what I've accomplished. Really, I don't spend time sitting there thinking that. I find myself doing things that I love. And I think being able to do things that you love allows you to move faster. And I love to work and I love the things that I do. And that I think allows me to have momentum in different areas. I think if I was doing things that I didn't like, I wouldn't have as many, fun moments to talk about or experiences to share. So I think that's one of the reasons that I it feels like I've done so much when someone lists it off, but to me, I just feel like I'm scratching the surface. So I think for me, what I want people, to know would be that one, I genuinely want people to win. I really believe in like the goodness of people. And I think when you're doing things for the right reason, you believe in whatever it is, whether it's teaching kids dance like we do at Tippy Toes, there's helping businesses with talent strategy. I think when you believe what you do every day, that there's a magnetism that comes with that. And that's where I found myself, because I just go into the things that I love and I only spend my time there. And I think that has resulted in a lot of good things for me.
Amazing. So, what are you looking forward to in these next chapters? Which, like I would say maybe, I don't know, 2 years ago, could you spell LinkedIn? You're not
No, I
a
couldn't.
social media darling that you are today. But you've embraced the platform. And I think that's, what I love about you is you just jump in and you don't need to have all the answers. I mean, I think your story about how you started your podcast, how you met Jesse Itzler, like that's who you are. And that's what I think is so cool is the sky's the limit because you don't have to have all the answers. Like you're just going to jump in and you're going to figure it out.
Yeah, and nobody has the answers. Like I think if anybody thinks there's some person out there to go get all the answers from, we would all be there and we wouldn't leave that person's side, but nobody has it. And so, the key is to just try stuff. And one of the things that I feel like I learned actually from Shark Tank through that experience, but just in general in life is like, I don't carry fear. I don't feel fear. And the reason I don't think about fear, don't like carry that with me is because I've learned that in life, like wins and losses, if you can find a way to gain something from a win and a loss and then move on, there is literally nothing that can stop you. Like I'm not afraid of screwing up or failing because unless it's getting hit by a bus, it's not going to stop me. Like there's just not a failure really that can stop you. And once you kind of realize that, I just feel like it allows you to feel freedom to go. And so when you talk about like what's next, I'm like, I don't have a clue. I know there's a lot of things that I want to do, but what I love is I'm like up for anything. So, definitely growing Tippy Toes. I want Tippy Toes to be more places back to like, I believe in what we do. We teach kids to be active, to feel good, to build their confidence. That's what we do for the kids. Then we also provide business opportunities for franchise owners, which I totally believe in. And I see, especially a lot of women owning these businesses, building a business, supporting their family. And that's really powerful. So I want to see that continue to grow. I definitely want to be on more stages. I've got a book inside of me, I know. And the other thing, and been something in my career, really passionate too about helping other people. Like I have been so fortunate because I know people like Scott McGregor and April and people like April Schrentz has made a huge impact in my life. And if I can do that for other people, that fires me up. And I know, Scott, that's something that fires you up as well. And I kind of feel like based on where I have been in my life, I haven't done that as much as I want to. And that's something I definitely want to do in the future as well.
Yeah, you're very intentional about the things I think that you do. The cards you send and things like that. I mean, it's impressive, but the impact is that it has is tremendous.
Well, and I think the thing about that is I love that you brought up intention. Part of that comes because I have 3 kids that are 5, 7, and 9. I work from home. I'm like, I don't have an option to not be intentional.
Right.
So I think like everything in our life, it's always in how you look at it. You can be like, oh, I'm so stressed. I got this and that. I got all these things. Or it can be like, I'm so lucky I get to do all these different things. It's really always in how you frame it. But intention is huge for me and where I spend my time, how I allocate my energy. And focus. I mean, focus is huge. Yep. We get more of what we focus on. And so I'm really mindful about where I put that.
Tell people how you got into podcasting. And tell people about your podcast because it's phenomenal.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. So my podcast is called Who Is Your Mama? And I interview the moms who've raised some of the world's greatest entrepreneurs, athletes, CEOs, entertainers. So I've interviewed Jesse Itzler's mom, Colin O'Brady's mom. She was an amazing interview, by the way. Sarah Blakely's mom, Kyler Murray. The list goes on. It's an amazing list of people I've interviewed up to this point. And that came from me. To be honest, if I go all the way back, I was nursing babies and running Tippy Toes and feeling like, God, there's something more inside of me. What is it? I want to do more. But also I'm here for my babies. Like literally, I don't have anything else to give. I'm running my business and taking care of these infants. This is all I have to give. But I was listening to Gary Vee. I was thinking about my future. I was priming myself for what would end up coming. And I didn't know that at the time. But I look back and I'm like, that time of me changing a diaper, listening to Gary Vee cuss in my ear about how to build a personal brand was pivotal for me. It was pivotal because the minute I was able to do those things and put some more things on my schedule, my kids went to preschool, then I was like, let's go. Like, let's roll up our sleeves and let's do these things that I felt inside of me. So that's like the very first seed really came from listening to a mentor from afar.
Yeah.
But I was really clear too about like, if I'm going to add something else to my plate, it has to come from my heart, because that's the only thing that I'm going to, I have to want to do it at 11 o'clock on my couch with a laptop on my lap, because I don't have a whole lot of other things to give. And as my kids were growing at this time, and I thought, what I care most about is being an amazing mom. I hope these kids grow up to be happy, thriving people. And what I can do is try to be the best version of a parent for them. And so I started thinking like, well, if I wanted to learn to play basketball, I would want to go to people that are really good at it. If I was going to learn to be anything, I would want to learn from the best. We can all go on Google, but like, where are you getting your information? Like, who knows? So I thought, well, I want to interview people that have been there and done that. And so that's where it started. I send a bunch of people DMs because I know no one at this time. I literally was like not networking at all. Not the greatest thing ever. I'm not bragging about that. Let me tell you that, but I didn't know anybody. And I just start going on Instagram and DMing people, and Jesse Itzler, I told him my spiel and he was like, cool, I'd love to hear what my mom has to say. And Jesse Itzler, I think everybody knows, especially in this group, but he's a serial entrepreneur, New York Times bestselling author, ultra athlete. And he's married to Sarah Blakely as well. He's just an amazing person. And he was super interested. And he said that he replied and said, yeah, that'd be great. And I was like, I don't know how to podcast. I don't have a microphone. I don't know. I don't even know like how to put it out. Like I didn't know anything. I'd never interviewed anybody. Like to say I was unprepared would be such a gross understatement. I had no clue what I was doing, but I loved the idea and I knew I had questions. And so I started there. I interviewed Jesse's mom and I was terrified. I was in another closet, a different closet. I was in my kids' play closet. I had all this stuff, pillows set up around me, like the most unimpressive setup you could ever imagine besides my last closet. And I finished the interview, and no lie, I like fist pumped to myself because I was like, yeah, like the content, the conversation, it was like, I knew in that moment that it was special. I knew nobody else was talking to these people that had this incredible experience. And from there, it kind of just went on. Jesse loved it. He wanted me to interview his mother-in-law, Sarah Blakely's mom. That was another incredible one. CNBC, a lot of people picked that one up. And it just kind of flew from there. It's another great example of you don't have all the answers and you're never going to. So just start trying stuff and you'll figure out the next most important thing along the way.
How, so the common theme is whether it was Shark Tank or whether it's starting a podcast or whether it's building this amazing company, Tippy Toes, or speaking on stage, is your fearlessness. Like, is that something that you've honed over time, or is that just like your DNA, you were born fearless?
Yeah, thank you for saying that. I feel like there's I was an athlete growing up. I think there's some tenacity and competitiveness in me. So like, I'm gonna just kind of do anything because it probably goes back to like, I hit every line on the suicides when I was in high school. Like I wasn't going to cut any corners, and I never did because I didn't feel like that's how, like that quote of how you do anything is how you do everything. Like I'm not going to mess around. I'm not going to show up for something and kind of do it. I don't believe that's a good practice. I don't think it makes any sense. And I don't ever want to be like a puny version of myself. And so that I think is what probably appears as fearless, because I'm tenacious for sure. I don't mess around, and I'm going to give everything I've got to a situation. But like I said before, like I don't feel fear. And sometimes people be like, aren't you afraid? Like, kind of like putting yourself out there and you have this business and all the liability that could come with it. Well, that wouldn't serve me if I was sitting there thinking about all that. Like now that you're talking, oh my God, there's a lot of things to be scared of, but I don't think about it. And not like in a clueless way, but just in a way of like, that doesn't serve me. It doesn't serve you. Like we should do things that serve ourselves and not things that are going to weigh us down for no reason.
So I think, I use you as an example a lot. So when I'm on podcasts, I get asked a ton, like, what have the last, 18, 24 months been like, as if it's been like this, like most catastrophic thing in the world, which I'm not minimizing, the devastation that it's had on many people's lives, but I think it's all how you look at it. And there's been moments in time that are similar to this, and we get through them. But I use you as an example because I have other friends that were running businesses that I thought, like
Mhm.
this business is so face to face. It's so built for not virtual that I don't know, like they're gonna have to be
Yeah.
Houdini to figure this out. So that's another one where you and Sarah, you figured it out. How did you do that? And how you did it so fast?
Yeah, we did. We did, and we did it really fast. And what's the alternative was my question. Like, it's either we die and go away and everything is for nothing, or we figure it out. And I feel like sometimes when you make it really simple like that, it's like, well, that's what we're going to do. We're going to go do this. Are we going to get it right? No. Are we going to make some edits along the way? Is the first thing we're going to do going to work? No. But like, we'll figure it out along the way. So I really felt like from the minute that I've told the story before, but I was next to Sarah. We never worked together. She's my sister. She's the founder of TCC. We were actually in the same desk, sitting side by side. We hear the NBA shutting down. We're like, like it was the moment that it was like, I knew we were screwed, basically. Like
Yep.
It's not going to go away. We go into schools and offer dance classes to children, and we have 35 franchises around the country that are doing this. All these people are running their own businesses. What the heck are they going to do? And I feel that weight of what are these families that, first of all, the families that come to Tippy-Toes, they're going to still want us. Our franchise owners have to be able to continue to go. So I just felt like there wasn't another option other than to figure it out. And so we took what we already had. We took a lot of our training materials that we just had to repurpose. We kind of had to pivot them just a little bit, and do little quarter turns here and there to be able to, like, 7 days later, have everybody in our company switch to a virtual platform. We were never virtual before. We thought about it, but we hadn't done it because we weren't sure how it would feel for the franchise owners. What would virtual even look like? How would you even do a virtual dance class? We had no idea, but we had it ready to go, and it launched on March 19th of 2020. And so it was really fast. Our franchise owners, therefore, never had to do a big refund or cancel everybody pivoted, and we continued going. We figured out a lot of things after that. The March 19th wasn't the end all be all. We ended up adding in Zoom classes and doing backyard dance classes. We did it all to survive. It was 18 months of triage. Let's be real clear. And that's one thing I always feel like it's really important. It was freaking hard. It was hours of me on a call with our franchise owner in California, who was going through something totally different than our franchise owner in DC. Like, it was really hard, but I just feel so passionate about what we're doing for the people that we serve that I knew we could manage it. We just had to keep figuring out the next best thing to do. And it worked. And now on the back end, to your point about, like, it was so hard, and it's all how you look at it. Now we have a new offering we've never had before. Our company is better and bigger now because we went through the pandemic. We have virtual classes that people still join now all over the world. We have a new form of revenue, a new revenue stream. And it's all because quitting wasn't an option, and figuring it out was the only. It's kind of the burning the boats concept. Like, no, we're just going to figure it out. And that's how I approach anything that I love, whether it's my marriage, whether it's parenting. There are some days I'm brought to my knees by a 5-year-old, but I'm not going to be like, that's it.
Is that
I'm
Kate
done with her.
or Stella or
That's
Harper?
Kate. It's Kate. That's impressive. It's Kate. She will bring me to my knees. And I'm just, but like, you're not going to give up. You're not going to give up. You don't give up on your kids. You don't give up on your family. You don't give up on the things that you really are passionate about. And that's how I feel about Tippy-Toes. So when the chips were down, there was one option, and it was going to be to figure it out. So that was the mindset that I had. That's the mindset I have kind of going into everything I do.
I love it. Well, we have people literally lined up to talk to you. They're so excited to talk to you. So I've got to see who we're going to first. Oh, cool. We're going to a brand spanking new TCC member. Jason in LA, you're up with the amazing Megan Reilly.
Appreciate that, Scott. And first and foremost, thanks for creating this community. What a wonderful way to start the new year with such stellar professionals. Megan, I've got to say, it's very impressive, one, listening to you and seeing everything that you've got going for you and staying busy with 3 kids. We have 2 at home, and God bless you. We had to stop at 2 because a third one probably would have drove us crazy. So my question is this: in the very beginning, when you started your business and you realized that it was scalable, what was your tipping point? When did you actually know, and how did you kind of overcome that tipping point for it to go from being a great idea and then branching out and continuing on?
Hi, Jason. Glad you're here. Glad you're a part of this group. Great question. And for us, so Sarah started this company when she was a sophomore in college because she had to make a car payment. She and I, we were not a franchise for the first 10 years of business. And what happened is life would come along and we would move to different cities or towns, and then we would start the business there. And long story short, we ended up, doing that for a while. And then we were trying to do a TV show, and that fell flat. And things, we just had this really hard time. And somebody said, have you thought about franchising? And this was in 2007. And we had never considered it. This was, 8 years into business. We'd never considered it. And so I bought Franchise Management for Dummies. I'm like, wait a minute, I think we can do this. And so it was sitting in front of me for a lot longer than I before I acted on it. And then we just went after it. I knew too that a lot of people wanted to have the freedom and flexibility that I had. I was 24 and I did whatever I wanted to during the day building my business. Like a lot of my friends thought that was pretty special. And so I knew that was an opportunity, that there would be people interested in that. And so, it was one of those things where once I saw the framework, I saw how well we could fit it, and then just started putting the pieces in. I had no idea how to franchise. When I heard franchise, I thought McDonald's, and I was like, I don't even know what that looks like. But I just started educating myself, getting books. I was getting books because it was the 2007. And then that was it. And then once we started it, we had one franchise for the first year to kind of be like, what are we doing? Can we handle this? Can we manage it? And we could. And then we went to town from there and just continued to grow in a way that felt really true to us. As you can tell, everything I'm talking about, it's very much based on feeling and gut and intuition. And that's really how we started franchising is kind of on our gut. And it was sitting in front of us for a while though.
Oh, I love that. Thank you very much.
Glad to talk to you, Jason.
You too.
We're going from a Jason who's a newbie to a Jason that is a TCC OG. Jason in Florida, you are up.
Megan, what's happening? How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. So excited. Been looking forward to this. I won't take too much time because I've had the fortunate pleasure of actually talking to you before. So for me, knowing you and chatting with you, write your own music, making things happen on all these things, love your podcast, all these areas. So, for outsiders that see all these posts and things, they, like you said, nobody has it all together, but they think, what does Megan struggle with? And besides just being, put your head down, make things happen, I'm curious that for those, because we all have our challenges, like what is a big area for you that you're like, I'm not really good at this area, but here's kind of what I'm doing to improve in that area. So
gosh, Jason, I can't think of anything. I just can't think of any. I'm just kidding. Plenty. I will tell you, over the past year, April Sprintz is on this call, and she and I did a lot of work together. And she helped me tremendously with mindset, which I did not know how big of a gap I had in how I viewed myself and how I viewed how I could show up for other people. That work changed my life. I think, that it's interesting, my life with so many of you guys, because I wasn't around, when I was raising kids, I didn't have time for this. I didn't have bandwidth to network. I wish I could have, but my priority was with my family. Then I came here And then I worked with April. My mindset, I think, was something, and it's going to be something that's really going to be a place I always pay attention to because I've seen the power of it. And I still will struggle in those days. I called April last week because I was like, oh, really struggling with how to approach a scenario. I would say, to be perfectly candid, it'll still be those moments of like, am I qualified to be doing this? I don't know that this is really the space for, it's a conversation I have a lot about, like owning your seat at the table. But there are still times when I find myself at a table and I'm like, I think they got it wrong. I don't know, that feeling still bubbles up. But the things that I've learned by studying it and working with someone like April has made all the difference in the world for me. So it's something I'm going to continue to focus on because it still pops up regularly for me.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Megan.
Good to see you, Jason.
We're staying in Florida, but we are going to Alex Smith. Alex, you're up.
Hi, Alex.
Hi. Oh my gosh. It's so good to see you always in your hoop earrings. It's like just a classic look. Don't
leave home without them.
Don't leave home without those. I love that you said earlier that you kind of like the book was sitting there for a while, like the franchise with dummies before you took action. I think you were telling me, like when I interviewed you for my podcast, you were like, there's a difference between like research and action. Like we think like research is really action, but it's not. And you probably did a lot of research, but like you just had to actually do it. And I'm like struggle with like just going for it and doing things. And like I see the calendar next to you. I actually got like BY, like I'm a fan. I'm trying to set out my year and plan my year. I've never gone to this length of planning the buckets in my year. So I guess my question maybe is, kind of, I wanted you to maybe walk us through maybe like the things, like the buckets that you're planning and like the big things you're doing and how you like, think about like moving from research and action and getting off.
Yeah. It's a great question because I think a lot of people get stuck in the thinking about it and really studying it. And it's like, that's great and means absolutely nothing. Like your knowledge in your own brain, doing nothing with it means nothing. You might as well not have been learning. And I say that kind of aggressively, and I mean it aggressively because I think everybody can do a heck of a lot more if they would just believe in themselves and act on the things that they know and that they love and that they've learned and that they care about. So I have, one of the things I'm going to focus on this year is because I want to grow Tippy Toes, I've put myself in some groups that are going to help me grow the business. And I've talked about doing things like that. And I've joined, I need to put some things in place that accountability. And so I have found the things that are actually going to push me that I'm going to have to like follow up. Someone's going to ask for this. And the thing is like, none of us are above needing that accountability. That's okay to need accountability. So I think sometimes people think everyone who's motivated or does things, you just think they just have this natural grit to never quit. That's not true. Sometimes you have to put something in place that someone's going to follow up with you and be like, what are you doing? Did you do this? Why isn't this? How fill this out? Whatever it is. And so that's one of the things I'm doing. My kids have been home and they've been doing virtual school. They just are going back. They just went back this week for the first time since March of 2020. So I'm really focusing in on my career because I I just love it and I care a lot about it. So I'm joining a couple of groups that are going to help push me in that way. And then the calendar, like I'm putting things on my list of things to do with my family. I've got date nights scheduled for the year. I've got fun outdoor activities with my kids. And so I am telling my kids what we're going to do. I've told my husband to put it on his calendar. I have to put things in place that hold me accountable because like everybody on planet Earth, you will have the moments of weakness where you won't follow through unless you have some accountability. So I think the key is putting yourself in a position to people checking on you and asking you how it's going and putting it out there and not being afraid to put something big on your calendar to go after it.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you.
Going to Washington State, Brian.
Awesome. Thank you, Scott. Hey, Megan, quick question for
Brian,
you. Like,
what's up?
I see this tenacity and I find myself trying to figure out sometimes when to persevere and when to pivot. And I know the last year has been a lot about pivoting. Is there a framework or an approach that you take about when to be belligerent and stubborn about going after things versus trying to tweak things and trying variations on it?
Really good question. And I will say, I think you could probably get a million different answers if you asked a whole lot of different people that, I think everybody will see this differently. I think there's a balance between patience and knowing great things take time. So there is a part that like, sometimes you just have to be patient. And then other times, if something doesn't feel right, I go with my gut a lot, whether you want to call that your intuition, your gut, your, your knowing, whatever it is, honoring that. I think so many times we don't, and we fight against that. So if something really matters to me, I really believe in it, then I'm more patient. If I have this weird feeling that it doesn't feel right, then I'm less patient. And so I kind of weigh, and I will literally have that conversation with myself. Sometimes I even write it out where I'm like, do I need to be more patient, or does this really just not feel right? And if something doesn't feel right, I walk away without worrying about it. There was an opportunity I had recently to help and do some coaching, and it seemed like it was going to be like a lucrative thing. I didn't want to do it. I have no idea why. It makes perfect sense for me. I had no interest. So I was like, I'm not going to do it. Money was there. Logically, it made sense. I could have done it. I could have executed it, but it didn't feel good. So I walked away from it. Back to like what I said in the beginning, like going with your gut and your heart matters so much, because you got to really want to do it. And then that kind of makes that next question that you're asking a little bit easier to make those decisions. I'm really willing to be patient with Tippy Toes. I'm not expecting everybody in the world to know our name today or tomorrow, but I'm willing to spend a lot of years trying to make that happen.
Great. Thank you.
Love it. And I think like when people say I go with my gut, I go with my heart, like people kind of discount that as if it's some like you're just winging it. But I mean, what you're really doing, like we're all creatures of all the experiences we've had, and we're able through our gut and our heart to kind of synthesize all of those things. And that's what our gut and our heart is our ability. It's still making data-driven decisions, in my opinion. It's just our human ability to do that. And I think sometimes in business, it's not given enough credit because it's not this big analytical thing, but it is. It's just the way that God made our brains and our ability to synthesize information quickly and make decisions.
I totally agree. And I feel like too, the beauty of it is it's individual. So my intuition is going to be different than yours and different from everybody else's on this call. And then there's like genius within that. So I'm going to see something totally different than somebody else, which means I can maybe do something differently with it. So just because somebody else doesn't see it doesn't mean I can't see it and go after it and make it great. So I love that you open the door to just the whole idea of also like honoring your full self, like whoever you are in your journey, warts and all. Like the more you can embrace that and carry that with you into your decision making, into who you are, I just think it makes you more powerful, because we all have our own story and we're all interested in each other's stories. But sometimes I think we're trying to fall in line. It's like, I see this person successful, I'm going to do what they're doing. And it's like, damn, you're missing all your genius. You're missing all your greatness, So I think when you say that, that's what I think of initially is like, my intuition is mine. Yeah. It's custom Megan Reilly. And so if I honor that, then it's going to be exciting and I'm going to want to be a part of it. You might think it sucks, and that's okay, but that's the important thing, is that we're honoring who we are.
Love it. Love it. We're staying on the West Coast. Chad, you're up.
Yes. Good morning, everybody. Megan, this is awesome. Really appreciate your as someone with a master's in exercise science, one thing that resonated and quite frankly respected of you is your master's in nutrition. I'm curious, as we all know, you are what you eat, and that helps us to fuel us to perform and to recover. I'm curious how you utilize what you know with your education into what you do today to help not only yourself, but Tippy Toes as a whole organization.
What's up, Chad? Glad to talk with you. Yeah, I mean, I've always been interested in nutrition. I went to school and it was like, I don't know necessarily what I'm going to do, but I'm always going to eat. So I might as well like learn the science behind it. That's literally what I thought. It's like why I became a registered dietitian. And then And then I figured out, like, I really do like, it's a lot of medical nutrition therapy, which is a little bit different than a lot of the things we see, on Instagram now. But then it also started to play a role within my company, Tippy Toes, because, we keep the kids active. We talk about, like, we want them to leave our class a little bit sweaty. We want to have them have a positive association with that. So that was another point that really drove me to get my master's in nutrition, because I knew that it could serve and give some validity to what we were doing at Tippy Toes. I will tell you, I feel the best of my life when I am eating well and getting exercise regularly. I am able to do more. And you know what it is? It's in my head. I feel great physically, but in my head, I'm like, I'm eating vegetables and lean meat and I feel great. And I freeze my brain to not be like, I cannot believe you just had that sub, that entire foot-long sub. Was that necessary? I'll do that in my head. And it's like, it creates negative talk. So when I think about nutrition and health, I think it's as much important for your mentality and your mindset as it is your physical being. The other thing that's really powerful for me is I've got 6 little eyes looking at me all the time. And I want to be a good example for my kids. And so, and really, we're all an example to everybody in our life, always. And so I think knowing that we all of our actions kind of have a megaphone to the world, I just want to do the best I can. And sometimes I am not great at it, but it's something I very much value. I've seen great results, that when I'm really focused and being mindful about what I'm consuming. And I see it in all parts of my life. So I love you're into that. I think it's highly important. And I think it's something that we can all do a little bit better.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing.
Fruit until noon. Are you on the
I
kick
did
yet?
try that. I did try that for a while. I actually really liked it, but honestly, getting fresh produce that regularly is what got me. I was like, oh my God, I got to go to the store to get, like, I'm living at this store. That's what crushed me. The logistics crushed me. I could eat, I could handle it. I just didn't, the logistics got me.
Too funny. All right, we're going to somebody who is actually going to be joining us as a featured speaker in Conversations with Legends series, but we didn't announce it yet, but now you know. So Stephanie Malik in North Carolina, you're up.
Hi, Scott. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Megan!
Yeah, finally chatting.
Hey! So I have only 436 questions, but I don't want any nasty text messages from Scott. So I'll just ask one. The first thing I want to say is watching April's face when you were talking and being a business coach and seeing that kind of come to fruition, it just is amazing. So April, amazing job. Amazing job. Megan, your podcast story is literally my podcast story. And if I would have known, I'm not sure I would have done it.
Yeah.
But I want to know, who's your dream guest and what show is your dream to be on?
Oh gosh, I've never been asked what show is my dream to be on. Well, I have to say this might be no surprise because I brought it up in the beginning, but Gary Vee would be definitely a dream to talk to his mom. And also to be, because he talks so much about his mom. And then obviously it's funny to be on a show. It would be both for me, for him. There's plenty of other people. I really would love to talk to Sue Bird's mom, Candace Parker, Elaine Welteroth. I've got my list, Matt Damon's mom. And it's funny, I'm hypersensitive to it. Like with Tippy Toes, if I go by and I see a playground anywhere, I'm like, ooh, that's a school. I wonder if they have Tippy Toes. We should, like I think differently. So now anytime someone mentions their mom, I'm like, are they alive? Do they still like them? Do they talk to them or do they hang out? Are they good? So, but that would be the answer. It would be Gary Vee. And then the list of other people I have on my radar for sure.
Amazing. I can't wait to chat with you soon.
Thank you. Me too.
We are going to Rhode Island, right by me. So Abby is a relatively new member, but you may remember her dad, Dr. Rebello, who was actually one of our guests. So Abby, you are up with Megan Reilly.
Hi, how are you? You are so cool and awesome. The question that I had for you was, I know you had said you were like 24 years old when you started to go into franchising the business. So can you speak a little bit to what it's like to be that young in the business world and go through those major changes and be your own boss, and kind of speak to that?
Yeah, I love that you're here, Abby. This is amazing. And I'm glad that you are asking questions too. You know, it's funny, Abby, I never really thought it was all I ever knew. And so for me, it was always kind of just normal. Now, there are many times when I thought, oh my God, they're saying so many things. I don't know what they're talking about. Like people, I would get on the phone with our accountant and I would immediately start sweating because I had no experience. I had no experience, but I had this business that worked. And so I had a lot of moments of that back what I talked about before is feeling like, I don't know if I should be, I don't know that I'm in this, I don't know if I'm a grown up yet. Like, should I be here? Should I be doing? So there was a lot of that self-doubt. But more than anything, I saw things that worked and I just kept following the things that worked. And so I think back to intuition and gut and what you know and what you see. So as you're going through your career and when you're young, it doesn't matter how old you are. It matters how you show up. It matters how you follow through. It matters what you do. Your age doesn't matter. And I didn't know all of this until I kind of could look back. And the reason I was successful at a young age was because I always showed up. I always followed through. I was always taking action. And that worked. Like, it just works. You're never gonna find somebody to be like, you need to talk trash about people. You need to sleep in, be lazy. Don't write your goals down. Don't think about what you want your future to look like. Like, we all know what works, but it's actually executing it. No matter what age you are, when you start to actually execute on those things, results follow. A lot of results just are inevitable if you show up. And so by you doing things like this, Abby, networking with people, getting around, I wish I would have done that at your age. I didn't have a network of people at your age. I was like kind of blindly going in with a machete through this forest, and there was all these beaten paths I didn't even know about. So continuing to put yourself in positions like this where you're talking to other people is huge. But there was a lot of self-doubt. There was a lot of cluelessness, and there was a lot of action. And that's honestly what happened for like the first 5 years of my career.
Thank you so
Megan,
much.
how do you decide who to align yourself with now that you're, out there, people know who you are, and you're very successful? Like, how do you determine who to be close to and who to align yourself with?
I know I've heard this someplace, but like, do I want to sit down and have a drink with you? Do I want to have dinner with you? Do I want to hang out with you? Like, I really have to like you. And then I also have to believe that you believe what you're saying. And I think there's a lot of successful people out there that I'm like, please, I don't believe them. And so I'm like, I'm out. Like, I get that everybody might like you, but I don't believe a word out of your mouth, or I don't think you're really doing it all, or I think you've got all this other thing. And it's just back to my gut. It's like, the people that I love are people that I find to be very authentic, maybe rough around the edges, but I don't care about that. I want to know that you are you're living the life that you're talking about. And so and whether you're known or not, I want to know that you're living the life that you present. That authenticity matters to me the most. And without a doubt, that's what I look for in people. And that's when I look at the people that I'm closest with. They're the people that have that self-assuredness. They show up as themselves.
Yep.
And they're nice. I like nice people. I don't like jerks.
I agree. We're going to Baltimore, Maryland, and one of our first members, Eric Silverman.
Hey, everybody. Hey, Megan.
What's up, Eric?
Oh, man, I'm so excited. I appreciate you doing this, and Scott, of course. So I owe me being involved with the TCC to Megan. I met Megan on Clubhouse in like January of last year, when Clubhouse was still cool. I don't know if it's cool anymore. I stopped getting on. And she said I had to meet Scott, and the rest is history. So I so very appreciate that we know each other and we become friends, and that we met in New York last year. But I have a question, and I stepped away for a minute, so I hope it wasn't asked already. But I think it's important for folks to know, when you're looking for franchise owners, What are the characteristics you focus on and look for? Do they have to have experience working with children in similar capacities? Do they have to be school teachers, educators? Can they be silent, passive owners where they hire everybody to do everything? I'm just curious what's on your mind. And I think you answered this on my podcast that you came on, but I just remember your answer, I think, was so cool, and I want people to hear it.
Oh God, I hope I answer it cool again. My God. So no, you don't have to have experience with kids. You don't have to be an educator. We do have that, of course. But I mean, it's a great business opportunity. You can be an investor. Someone who can come in and then have an operator kind of executing. And so, I'm looking for someone, no jerks allowed still with that. Because we are a community of people that is, and it is a really great community to be a part of. But having some desire to run a business, is important. I want someone to show up and be hungry. There is a good amount of sales involved as you go out and grow the business. So those are kind of some of the key factors I'm looking for. Somebody that's got that tenacious business mindset, willing to do sales, and then willing to be a part of a community, because franchising is different than just starting your own business. There is some sort of a framework. You're coming into a group, and there are things to kind of fall in line with, and then there's things to bring to the table. And so I love adding people that add something we don't have. We have former consultants, we have former school teachers, we have former career advisors. We've got all sorts of, we have former college students, people that taught for us and then become franchise owners because they see the value and they see the business opportunity. The business opportunity is insane. It's insane. We've made it through the pandemic. We made it through 2001 and 2008 and 2012 and 2019 and 2020 and 20. Like, we're in a really good, healthy spot. And so I'm hoping to see a lot of new franchise owners coming in these next couple of years, especially.
I love it. We need one in my county, in Maryland. Annapolis is too far.
I'm with you. Totally agree.
Let's go. Let's go. All right. We are going to one of my favorite people, April in Florida, who Megan has mentioned maybe once or twice already.
Yeah, I got to send Megan that check for all those shout outs. So Megan, one of the things that I absolutely adore about you is how inspirational you are to folks. And that comes from a very genuine place. And I would love to ask you to share your take on something that I think you explained so well and would be very valuable to everyone, which is your thoughts on how sometimes folks can overestimate other people while underestimating how great they are at things. And I really love the way that you talk through this.
See, I didn't know this question was coming, but I love this question because I think we all do this naturally. I think we assume that somebody else knows what's going on. And I did this. And I think part of why I have a lot of experience in this is because I was so young starting and I just assumed everybody else knew. And then over the years, I come to find out nobody actually knows. Like, nobody knows a lot of things. People know their little area, their little zone of genius, but there's so much out there that we can all learn. And somebody might know something great, but I see it in a different way, and we can expose it in a different way, and we can all learn together. So, and I mean, April, I feel like that's something that we have worked through a lot, because I did for a long time assume that. And then what I've seen, I see this with our franchise owners all the time. Somebody comes in with a fresh take, with a unique point of view, with a different background, and they bring so much to my company that I've had for 22 years. I think the value is knowing we can all always learn from other people, and we all have something to share. And so that is kind of the road I like to stay on. That of, let me learn from people and learn from their perspective, but let me also not underestimate what I know and what I can bring to the table. I have kind of had to test this at times. So like when Jesse Itzler and I have worked together more, or he asks for, I'm joining and doing this elite coaching for some people that he's working with. And I think to myself, like, I can offer something that Jesse can't, because I'm in the weeds. I have 3 kids. I've built a business. There's perspective that I have that he doesn't. and there's so much I can learn from him. So it's just a two-way street always in learning and then sharing. And I learned it the hard way for the first little bit of my career. And once I kind of understood the beauty of that dichotomy, I embrace it and I look for it all the time now. Thank
Love
you,
it.
April.
Love seeing you guys talk. It's awesome. And a quick plug, if you have not bought Magic Blue Rocks, April's book, it is one of the few books that I read cover to cover, nonstop, didn't stop, couldn't stop. It's so freaking good. You have got to buy Magic Blue Rocks. It's so good. So anyway, thank you for putting that out in the world, April. So we're gonna, I don't know how this magically happens, and I shouldn't even say this because now the next time this won't happen, but we always have the perfect amount of questions, always. So we have one more question, and it's Aaron in Pennsylvania. So Aaron, you're a cleanup hitter. And then just for everybody, there are some people that hang out afterwards. That's like overtime. If you want to hang out, that's great. If not, I know everyone's got super busy days. So anyway, Aaron, you are going to be our cleanup hitter with Megan Reilly.
Awesome. Thanks for having me, Scott. I appreciate it. Megan, I'm super excited that I got to join this call. I haven't had a chance to be on this in a while live. And when I saw that it was you, I was ecstatic. So first off, I feel like if I'm ever in Texas or if you're here, I would so totally go out to dinner and have a drink with you because I think we have the same type of vibe and energy level.
Love it.
But my main thing for you, I guess, like you being an entrepreneur, you have so much going on, you know, having the 3 kids, a startup company, your podcast, you're, you know, just taking care of yourself. How do you learn to say no to things at points? I think that's something that I'm trying to adjust. I'm always wanting to help everyone in anything out there. So that's kind of a work in progress for myself. So how do you prioritize that piece for you?
So good, Aaron. And it's boundaries and prioritizing what I really love and what I have to be a part of. So I also learned, again, I mean, everything. I've learned everything the hard way. But I've been burnt out. I've been in that place where I was like, I don't want to do this anymore. I've had that feeling. And once you have that feeling, you know it can happen. And so once you had that feeling of like, oh, I don't even want to do this or that or be on this call, that's when I'm like, okay, I need to reassess what I've got going on and figure out where my boundaries are. And I can make some changes here and there, whether it's how I'm accessible to certain people or whether it's how I respond or if I decide to time block. Like, I think there's a lot of tactical solutions, but this is going to be a shocker. It's going to go back to my gut. And knowing like, if I really want to be there and I really care about the thing, then I'll show up for it and it doesn't bother me. So what's interesting, Aaron, is like, I work, like I kind of go wire to wire every day. So I don't have a lot of time. I'm not like, I don't have a lot of downtime, but I don't feel burnt out because the things I'm doing, I love. Like I love my family. I love Tippy Toes. I love the podcast. But if there was something I didn't love, I've taken it out before and I've been like, I don't want to show up for that. And, you know, a lot of people will talk about this specifically, but when you find that place that it feels good, burnout doesn't really happen, or it hasn't happened for me. It happens when I'm doing things I don't really love. And so, so prioritizing it and then finding it, sometimes they're just little things like putting some boundaries up. To be perfectly candid, because we're all a community here, I had to put some more boundaries up as we were growing. And as I want to go, I couldn't be as available and accessible and, you know, at every beck and call for all of our franchise owners like I was for a number of years. That was really hard boundary to put up, but I had to for their business and for our growth of our own business. That was really hard. But that boundary has saved all of us and it's going to allow us to grow a lot more. So I think I'd sit back and I'd see places that maybe you could put boundaries up if needed, and then make sure that you're doing things that you love and prioritize those things that you care most about.
Love that. Thank you so much.
Hit me up if you're in Dallas.
Megan, this has been the absolute perfect way to start off 2022. And I cannot thank you enough. But I guess, you know, one of the exciting things about TCC is as we grow, I think we're able to give back and to do some special things. So I always like to ask people, like, what can we do collectively as a community for you? How can we help you? I think in the next few months, we'll probably get close to 1,000 members total. So, you know, what can we do to help you?
It's so generous. And I never know what to say when people ask me that. But I will say that I love engaging with people on LinkedIn. You know, we are expanding to Tippy-Toes quite a bit. So if you know people that are looking for great business opportunities, that's something that I feel so passionate about. And I love the idea of that growing. And when I drop my book, will you guys buy one? Because that'll be exciting. It's gonna be a minute, but that'll come down the road later. But I'm grateful to be a part of this community, and it's really powerful and special. And I love seeing